Section 18 of The Toilers of the Sea, by Victor Hugo. This recording is in the public domain, read by John Greenman. Chapter 6, Entrance of Lethierry into Glory. The Galliot prospered. Mais Lethierry beheld the moment drawing near when he would become Monsieur. At Guernsey one does not become Monsieur at one bound. Between the man and the gentleman there is a whole ladder to be climbed. To begin with, first rung, the name alone, Pierre, I will assume it to be. Next, second rung, Voisin, neighbor Pierre. Next, third rung, Father Pierre. Then fourth rung, Sieur Pierre. Next, fifth rung, Mes Pierre. Then at the top, Monsieur Pierre. This ladder, which starts from the ground, continues into the blue sky. The whole hierarchy of England enters into it, and is graded in it. Here are the rungs, ever more and more luminous. Above the gentleman there is the esquire, above the esquire the knight, sir. Then, still ascending, the baronet, a hereditary sir. Then the lord, laird in Scotland. Then the baron. Then the viscount. Then the earl, jarl in Norway. Then the marquess, then the duke, then the peer of England, then the prince of the blood royal, then the king. This ladder rises from the people to the middle classes, bourgeoisie, from the middle classes to the baronetage, from the baronetage to the peerage, from the peerage to royalty. Thanks to his rash but successful deed, thanks to steam, thanks to his engine, thanks to the devil boat, Mais Lethierry had become a personage. In order to construct the Galliot he had been obliged to borrow money. He had run into debt in Bremen, he had run into debt at St. Malo, but each year he diminished his indebtedness. He had purchased, in addition, on credit, at the very entrance to the port of St. Sampson, a pretty stone house, perfectly new, situated between the sea and a garden, on whose corner this name was to be read, Les Bravées. The mansion of Les Bravées, whose front formed a part of the very wall of the port, was remarkable for a double row of windows, opening on the north on an enclosure full of flowers, on the south towards the ocean, so that the house had two fronts, one towards tempests, the other towards roses. These fronts seemed made expressly for the two inhabitants, Miss Lethierry and Miss Déruchette. The house of Les Bravées was popular in St. Sampson, for Miss Lethierry had at length become popular. This popularity sprang a little from his kindness, his devotion, his courage, a little from the quantity of men whom he had saved, in great part from his successes, and because he had given the port of St. Sampson the privilege of the arrival and departure of the steamboat. On perceiving that the devil boat was a decidedly good thing, St. Pierre, the capital, had claimed it for its port, but Lethierry had stood firm for St. Sampson. It was his birthplace. "That is where I was launched," he was wont to say. Hence a lively local popularity. His quality of tax-paying proprietor constituted him what is called in Guernsey habitant. He had been appointed douanier, note douanier, a member of the administrative council in Jersey and Origny. This poor sailor had climbed 5 out of the 6 rounds of the social ladder of Guernsey. He was mais, he was on the brink of Monsieur, and who knows whether he would not even succeed in passing the boundary to Monsieur? Who knows whether one day they would not read in the Almanac of Guernsey, in the chapter Gentry and Nobility, this superb and unprecedented inscription, Lethierry, Esquire. But Mes Lethierry disdained, or rather ignored, the side of things which produce vanity. He felt himself to be useful. Therein lay his joy. Being popular touched him less than being necessary. As we have said, he had but 2 loves, and consequently but 2 ambitions, Durande and Déruchette. At all events, he had invested in the lottery of the sea
and had won the grand prize. This grand prize was the Durande, afloat and sailing. Chapter VII. Entrance of Lethierry into glory.